It's Eric, Bakker, the naturopath. How are we all going out there? It's summertime in the Northern Hemisphere. What do we know? We're June. It's winter time in New Zealand. It's not so bad here, but I always like summer, and I think you guys really like it too, obviously. Now, we're still on the topic of antibiotics, probiotics. Now we're going to, this question is interesting. My sinus infection won't go away after antibiotics. So I've routinely seen this over the years, that some people have a sinus infection and they go to the doctor and they get antibiotics. Now there are several medical doctors I know that won't even give antibiotics anymore for sinus infections because they know how darn hard they are to treat with antibiotics. There are different parts to the sinus cavities. We've got several areas where an infection potentially could be. Sinus infection could also be a dental problem, right? It could be like, this is what I had for years. I had it for several years. I had a sinus problem for many years. And little did I know it was a tooth that wasn't really well. Okay, that was actually the roots of the molars, or the teeth at the back here, actually come right up really close to the maxillary sinus. So it's literally like you've got a cave, and then you've got something there poking right out at the ceiling of the cave. Now it doesn't take much for that tooth to die and for that infection to go into the sinus cavity, and that's what happens. Once I fixed up my own infection, I got rid of a sinus problem I had for so long, it was driving me crazy. I couldn't fly in a plane, I couldn't put my head underwater, I was constantly sniffing, I had infection, I had acute sinusitis. It was absolutely hell on earth. And when the tooth came out, the infection went away. Thank goodness for that. So that was my problem. Now that might not be yours, but I'll tell you what, I've seen many cases of sinus infection that did involve a really bad tooth in the upper palate. So you may want to get an x-ray to examine that if you've got any teeth problems. Teeth problems, I could create a whole video channel on teeth problems, how they push people into infectious disease. The mouth and the anus are the two of the most bacterially full places in your body, and it's easy to get infection in there. So it's very important to look after the mouth and the other end too, of course. Anyway, I'm straying from the question. The question was, my sinus infection won't go away after antibiotics, what do I do? So I would be very loath to take an antibiotic ever again, particularly if I had a sinus infection, because I know there are different ways you can get rid of that sinus infection without resorting to drugs that kill or trash your gut. But if your sinus infection doesn't go away after an antibiotic, you need to make a serious diet change, that's for sure, and probably a lifestyle change too. So I usually like people to walk more, and I show them breathing exercises, and we get people off all dairy products completely, so nothing from the cow, right? So any kind of mucus forming foods, breads, flours, gluten, milk, cheese, all that kind of stuff, I take that all out. I simplify the diet usually for about 3 months, 12 weeks. At the same time work with herbal medicines, vitamin C and different things like that, and it works. Essential oils are really, really good for sinus problems. But if the sinus doesn't go away, I can't recommend highly enough that you get your mouth checked out by a really, really top person properly to make sure, absolutely 100% sure, that there's not a tooth that's playing up. That's the first thing you eliminate. If that's good, you need to look at the diet straight away and get that sorted. Oftentimes with sinus sufferers, there's one offending food they can't stop having. Now, I don't talk to my brothers all that much. I've got 4 brothers. I spoke to one recently in Australia who told me about his sinus problem. And I don't give any health advice to family or friends at all. They have to ask me, and even then, they won't get it out of me. It's like pulling teeth, literally. I don't talk to people about their health unless they specifically now ask questions. So unsolicited advice is usually will end up with a slap in the face, so you don't do it. But anyway, my older brother, sinus problem. Yes, Eric, I've been to a naturopath here where I live in our town, and she's put me on this cleansing diet. I said, okay, mate. Well, interesting. And his wife was sitting next to him, and she said, he likes ice cream. And I said, are you screaming for ice cream? We all scream for it. Are you screaming for ice cream? And then, I have a little bit every night. And she said, a big bowl every night. And I said, that's your sinus problem, mate. That's your sinus problem. Stop the ice cream. Oh, but I like a little bit. So look for that one offending food or drink that you can't stop having or are drawn to like a moth to a flame, okay? And oftentimes that will be one of the biggest causes of your sinus problem. Right? So think about that. Testing for the mouth, checking the diet out properly, and then working on the digestive system, probiotics, and the gut. So lactobacillus, different strains, lactobacillus rhamnosus, bifidobacteria. Just get a nice probiotic formulation. Take that twice a day. Once with your breakfast, and maybe one with lunch, or one with your evening meal. Just 2 a day. Make sure you've got a cleansing diet free of mucus-forming foods, as I said, like gluten and wheat and grains and dairy and that. And introduce more, vegetables into the diet, and you'll find that along with water consumption, so you probably need to drink 2 of these containers a day, maybe 3, and the sinus will get better and better and better. We're running out of time now, but otherwise I'd show you a breathing exercise. But suffice to say, nasal breathing, in and out through the nose, okay, as much as you can. Even if you can only do it through one nostril, eventually you'll get both nostrils done. Eucalyptus and pine oil. Pine oil is one of the best. Thanks for tuning in.